of challenge 5 is to cause the H2 heading to either increase when we click the increase font size button or decrease when we click the decrease font size button. So this was probably the most difficult challenge of all of these challenges. If you did not figure this one out, that's completely okay. For right now, let's just get the font size increasing and decreasing, and then we'll come back to this challenge and figure out how to get the size of 150 points to put those restrictions on it to make sure it doesn't get too big or it doesn't get too small. Okay. If we come back and look at our code in our challenge 5 section, we see that we have two buttons, an increase button and a decrease button. So I went ahead and created some global variables for those. If you want to pause the video and kind of copy this code over, surely you're understanding this by now because this is something that we've been doing since the beginning of the semester. We have a button, we need to access that button, we need an object. And we are creating it as a global variable to make our event listener easier. Okay, now in this challenge we need a way to access this H2. How am I going to access this H2? It doesn't have an ID, it doesn't have a class name like we did with the previous challenge, and we've already used a query selector. So for this one, let's try get elements by tag name. Get elements by tag name. Okay, so let's find our increase font function, and I'm going to create a variable called heading L, and we're going to use get elements by tag name. Now, what's the tag that we're looking for? That tag is an H2 tag, but because this returns multiple, it doesn't return one, it returns many, a collection or a list, because elements is plural, we know that we need those, right? Because we only want to access one of the many. So this is the 5th H2 in our HTML document. This is challenge 5. So challenge 1 was the first one, challenge 2 was the second one, this one's challenge 5, so it's the 5th one. So what number would I put here? Would it be that? Well, if you said that, you were wrong. No, it's 4. Remember, we start counting at 0. So this is the 5th H2, but it is the 4th index value. Okay, so now that we know that we can address or access this heading, we know that we can get here to this H2, we need to know what we can do to modify it. Well, we're changing the font size, that's CSS. Okay, so let's look at our CSS. Here we have an H2 all the way up, if you scroll all the way up to line 13. Font size is the property, and then we set it to 24 points. We need a way to increase only this portion though. Remember, the font size has text at the end of it. Oh, this is really challenging. Okay, so let's try creating a global variable called start size. And this is going to represent the 24 in that particular CSS rule, okay? So it's going to represent that. So we can easily change the size. All right. So this is starting at 24. Let's come down to our increased font size. Let's increase start size, and let's increase it by 5. So we could say start size is equal to what happens when we take start size, and we add 5, okay? But that's a lot of typing to do when we could really just type that, okay? So that's going to take the 24, it's going to add 5 to it. Okay, then let's change the size of our H2. So to access that particular object, we call that heading L. If I want to change anything about the CSS styling, I have to access the style property. Ooh, now I need to change the font size. Font in CSS would look like that, but that's not working. Something's wrong. It's black. Okay, you can't type that in JavaScript. It thinks that is subtraction. It thinks we're trying to take the word font and subtract size, and that wouldn't work. So remember, for our CSS rules, we remove the hyphen and capitalize the second word. Okay? So now our new font size is going to be what happens when we take the value of our start size variable, which now has a value of 29, and we add the word P, or add the letters PT on the end. Okay? So let's see if that, oh, we need an event listener. Let's go ahead and add our event listener. Okay, we called it increase button. And we need add event listener. On click, we want to run the increase font function, and false. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh, we got it to increase. Yay! So now let's try to figure out how we can do those particular restrictions on that. So if the font, we want the font to never exceed 150 points or get below 10 points. So let's go back to our code. How could we do this? Well, we need an if statement. Okay, so if our font size, we're gonna move some code here. Okay, so notice I added some space there. If our start size is greater than or equal to 150, then we want heading L style dot font size to remain start size. So whatever the last size that it got to before it became too large. Okay. Else, so otherwise, if it's not bigger than, then we're going to add 5. Notice I'm moving my curly brackets here. I'm just aligning my code better. Okay. So else, as long as it's not bigger than 150, because this is the increased font size button, then we're always going to add 5. Few seconds to look at the code. All right, so let's test it. Let's see if I can ever get it too big. Oh, it's so large. It may actually get too big. Okay, okay. There we go. We finally reached the end. It won't get any larger, okay? So we've maxed it out. Apparently our start size is now a number greater than 150, so it's no longer adding 5 to our font size every time we click the button, okay? All right, come back for the second video for the second part where we'll learn how to decrease the font size.